the show begin. Next generation for the win. We're going all in. All together now, let's begin. Let the show begin.
So your first time at WiT as well?
It is. I'm so glad to be here. So glad to see all of you.
And you're not into travel. I mean, you cover travel.
But
what are you like as a traveler?
Oh, what am I like as a traveler? I'm spontaneous. I don't plan anything in advance.
All right. So you don't use any of the trip planning apps then?
No, I do, but in the moment, like once I'm actually in the destination. So I'm very last minute.
All right. Okay.
And it still works. Yeah.
Absolutely, especially now with Gen AI,
Yes.
right? So it's much easier for a traveler these days.
It is.
Yeah. So we'll get into that later, but I read your background and I thought it was really interesting that you're the daughter of immigrants and refugees. Your father moved to the US from India in 1965 after living through the partition of India and Pakistan. And then 40 years later, you returned to the city that he grew up in, which was Delhi, right? So what did he say to you? He said, why are you going back to the city that I fled?
Yeah. Well, he said, I worked so hard to give you a better life, and now you're just going right back to where I started. But the way I looked at it is the opportunity in this region. Now I've been in Asia for 17 years, is much more profound than the impact I can have back in the States. And so I told him that, and I'm here, and now he's finally given up on me and knows I'm not returning home.
Is that right? Okay. But he visits you, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so of the 17 years in Asia, 10 years with Google, right? And you started with them in India before you moved to Singapore. So let's talk a little bit about India. It's a market that you know really well. India commerce on fire right now. Yeah. What's the most interesting thing happening in the digital space that maybe we don't know about?
Yeah, it's, I don't know how many of you are following the quick commerce industry and what's happening there. It's profound to see just how quickly, how the demands of customers in terms of convenience. 2-hour delivery is not good enough anymore. Same-day delivery is not good enough anymore. And so people want things within 30 minutes. And new business models are coming up. And it's now over $20 billion already. And it's growing in triple-digit growth rates just in the last few years. And so I think it's really going to shake up retail, customer expectations, and seeing who's rising to the occasion are not your traditional e-commerce players. And so there's a lot of new entrants. And so the whole space is getting disruptive. I kind of find it, though, crazy to some extent that people can't wait 2 hours for something to get delivered.
And now you say there's 20-minute guarantee.
Yeah.
How do you do that in a city like Mumbai?
Because they've created this network and they're able to do this. But it's creating, I mean, the drivers are being told that their incentives only come through if they make it there in the 20 minutes. So it's creating, actually, you could argue it's creating a lot of chaos. But they're managing to do it. I've tried when I've gone. Right. It's happening. So they've found a way. I think this is the beautiful part of not following the global models on e-commerce and really building them ground up.
Yeah.
And this is where the local SMBs really thrive. Right, so they're not being disrupted in this. They're actually gaining business from it.
Yeah. But it seems to me like in the conversations this morning is that we're creating a world where, I mean, the AI products are coming so fast, it's really overwhelming, and then it's really making humans become so aspirational and so demanding that we want things in 20 minutes that we are not thinking through the consequences. I mean, the poor drivers.
Yeah.
Have to get there in 20 minutes, risk their lives, just to bring you something.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
What kind of world are we creating?
It's true. And I'm glad. There's a lot of conversation happening about this. What is it doing to traffic? What is it doing to driver experience?
Right.
So, yeah.
How do you see that? So because you cover other industries, clearly, and travel is a big sector, I'm sure. So are there things that are happening other than this quick commerce? And I'm trying to see how that can apply to travel, right? But what lessons can we learn from what you've seen in other industries that could apply to travel?
Well, I think what we're seeing happen, we have this economy report that we actually for Southeast Asia that's coming out in the next few weeks. We're excited about that. I think the big trend of moving away from just chasing top line and focusing on revenue is one of the things that we have seen, right? How are we getting more deliberate about our business models in order to, and I think and the connection back to quick commerce is, are we just chasing the top line, or are we chasing revenue and experience, transactions? Are transactions increasing? Is average order size increasing? And thinking about the implications on revenue when you get the experience right, I think is the lesson that I would say is applying. And I think across the board, what we're seeing across industries is now a very major focus on revenue as the top priority and not just the volume.
All right. So, and profitability?
And profitability as an outcome of that, yeah.
All right. So you say your report is coming up soon. So I only have the 2023 report to refer to. And at that time, I think the report said that Southeast Asia's digital economy is expected to deliver 100 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
And that digital payments will represent 50% of transaction value. Okay. So what can we expect from the 2024 report? Like what is the big change? Big shift.
I would say, I mean, so what one of the big messages is that we've been on this path to profitability and where we are on that journey. I can't give the headline out at this point in time, but it's a really good space. And then the second thing I think we talk a lot about is the video commerce space and what's happening with video commerce. And I think that will impact travel as well. I think we're traditionally seeing it more in the beauty space or in certain products, but I think even in travel, we're going to see that change. We're very excited. We've launched YouTube Shopping. That's the new news. In Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam are to come. And so I think the video shopping space is heating up.
Yeah, definitely, right? You got the TikTok shop, you got Expedia starting travel shop. I think Klook has started the Klook Creators Program where everybody can have their own shop. It's like we're going back to the days of mom and pop travel agencies.
Yes.
Like empowering everybody to sell travel again.
But which is great, right?
Yeah, it's empowering small businesses and individuals, right?
Yeah.
What about digital payments? I mean, at that time, already 50% of transaction value. Do you see I know you can't give away too much, but what have you been seeing on?
Well, we've always said that this region is, I mean, the leapfrogging that happens in Asia versus elsewhere in the world is always distinct. And so I think we're going to continue to see that. And I think in the fintech space in particular, I mean, that's where if you actually look at the model on where our company is thriving and where they're doing well, it's in the fintech space. And you're seeing also the investments from the VCs into fintech.
So you say you've been 17 years here and you've convinced that the future, is here and that's why you're here, right? But you work for a company that's clearly based in the US, So do you have trouble exciting them about APAC and then telling them what's different here? And is this region going to leapfrog in AI like it did mobile? How do you deal with that?
I don't think, no, I've found, it's always a challenge. The reason I've been at Google now 10 years is because I think and I know our product teams listen. Actually, we have some product folks from the US in the audience here today because they're very in tune with what's happening here. And so when we show them, this is where you see the future. Video shopping started here, right? And so you come here to see where things are going. And I find our product teams leaning in because look, the population dynamics and more than half the world is here. In terms of GDP growth, this is a region that's driving that. So we're seeing actually more of a lean in than not.
All right, so I'm going to go to trigger an audience poll very quickly, but it's really just talking about AI, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the two words on two letters. So as a parent, fraternal twins, how do you feel about Gen AI and how that's going to change their world?
Yeah, I do have twins. I mean, we debate this a lot at home, right? My daughter is very into it. They're 12 years old. My son is very much I want to be authentic in terms of how I'm using, I don't want to use AI, right? So we debate it as a family quite a bit. But when I see how they're learning, learning is enhanced. If they're stuck on a problem, the kind of resources that are available because of AI to help them, it's like tutorials are now available, and it helps with their learning. They're using language apps at the age of 12 to enhance their language learning experience, which would never have even imagined, right? So they're learning multiple languages. They're doing all of this because of AI. So I think the big question mark to me is just around how much use in the classroom and when, right? So the when is, as a parent, I don't think it should be every time, all hours of every day. You have to separate and you have to hold yourself accountable to do things on your own.
But this is the generation that's going to change our travel industry because they're
Yeah.
going to be the future traveler, right?
Yeah.
And if they are already like they are growing up in a world that they've never known anything but social
Yeah.
media or but AI. So how do you think the travel industry can prepare for this wave? And how is Google
Yeah.
preparing for this wave of?
I mean, we're
next gen?
seeing the kind of demands in terms of experiences changing, right? And how people expect to use our products is changing. It used to be, you typed and everything was entry of your question. Now in their world, they want to take a picture of something and have the answer. So this is where like Google Lens, you take a picture while you're traveling, you get an automatic translation, you can find out about your surroundings. They're very visual in the way that they are interacting. And I think I see a lot of players leaning into this visual behavior. So multimodal, I think, is everything. They want to talk,
Yeah.
they want to take a picture,
They wanna pay.
and this is where our products are evolving to really adapt. And this is what AI does exceptionally well, is the multimodalness. Do it, enter how you want, but prompt in interesting ways, right? You can take a video of something now and say, tell me what's going on in this video. Or if, let's say you have my daughter uses this use case, if the tech is not working, she takes a picture of why is this not working, right? And she gets an answer in response. So they don't think anything is impossible, right? Whereas I think us as adults, we were like, oh, I don't know if that's going to work. They actually try. So I think we have to make sure we're empowering their trial and their behavior.
Okay, so let's go to the audience and see, how worried are you that AI will displace their jobs, right? And I love our attitude in Asia. Like we're just, whatever, alamak, tidak apa, sanguine. Things have a way of working out, so that's our mentality. So do you have that mentality at Google as well? As like things have a way of working out because there's a lot of upheaval in search, right? Everybody's talking for the first time that Google is going to have competition in search and all that. So you reckon things are just going to work out?
I mean, for already what we're seeing is AI is helping our search product, whether it's in helping with hotels and with flights, right? Gemini is powering the experiences. People are getting better answers. But outside of this, I think we're excited because the profound implications of AI go way into various places like disease. Right, I'm excited because we're advancing disease detection. Like we're gonna solve the biggest problems that have felt unsolvable.
Right.
Just last week, a couple of our Googlers got the Nobel Prize for science. It hasn't happened before. Right, so the kind of research and the way that things are unfolding to do things that we had never expected before. So yeah, more than working out, I think it's going to be better than any of us actually expected. But I think our approach is to be bold, to say we can figure out any problem, but we have to do it in a responsible way.
Yeah.
And so we have a set of AI principles that we're accountable to make sure that we are upholding ourselves to the values that we've always had.
Okay, so let's talk about doing things in a responsible way and considered and respectful way, right? And I guess one of the things that the industry fears about Google is your power, right? I mean, you say multimodal power. I wrote an article on the launch of Apple Intelligence, right, and how that might affect travel. And there's a quote from a travel tech leader that I asked, what are the implications? And he said that the companies that own operating systems are particularly well placed to execute on general purpose agentic functionality as the OS has privileged access to all the other apps and software installed on the device. In this area, Google has a strong edge over Apple, Microsoft, OpenAI, or anybody else. What do you think of that proposition?
Well, I don't think that we have access to everything, right? I think, and this is where the privacy and the principles that we have do not allow us to have that access, right? And so this is where whether it's the privacy protection, I mean, laws govern us, right? And we follow the laws of the land where we are. And so I think what we're doing is actually partnering with governments to make sure that actually the space is safe, right? We believe just as much in data protection than anybody else.
Absolutely.
And so I mean, that's one of the reasons I've been at Google for 10 years is because I believe in this. I come from financial services where the laws and the guidelines were always very strict about what financial services players can and can't do. And it's the same thing at Google. So I appreciate what he says here, but I don't think it's quite true.
All right. Okay. And you've said, but what you've said to be quite true, you say the biggest opportunity for women entrepreneurs is with the digital economy. So how are you supporting women entrepreneurs?
Well, I think this is an opportunity, right? Like for us to make sure that we are helping women advance themselves. So a few things that we're doing. One, we're giving them education. So we have a lot of AI courses and skills that we're giving away for free. And we've set the bar for ourselves is to make sure at least half of these should be given to women, right? And you can say actually in the tech space, women are not 50%, but we're saying we're going to make sure we're educating them. We have a Google for Startups Women Founder Fund, so we're ensuring that we are investing in women founders. We also are amplifying their voices. There's many great women scientists in this space, right? From Dr. Fei Li, who is an ex-Googler, but also, you know, a lot of influencers right here in Singapore and the rest of the region. How are we giving them a voice? And so as Google, we pay quite a bit of attention to this because there's a lot of questions about equity and inclusion and the bias that might trip us up if we aren't.
Especially with AI, right?
Yeah.
You know. So who's your role model in tech?
My role model is Google DeepMind. They, you know, the Nobel Prize winners of last week, they're my current role models because I find it's fascinating. They don't think anything can't be solved. And this research thing from a health standpoint, my dad was a scientist. He spent years kind of unfolding proteins and building protein structures, which took him years to do. And when he saw that last week, one of the AlphaFold now has predicted every protein structure in the world, and now we're hearing people say that cancer can be cured because of what the research has done. They're my role model. And my dad said it himself, like what took him 5 years is now done in 5 minutes.
It's amazing. What a world we live in, huh?
It's an amazing world.
20-minute commerce and accelerated healing for diseases.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Sapna.
you.
Thank you so much for that conversation. Thank you.
Right, they're ready now. Let the show begin. Next generation for the win. We're going all in. Take center stage now. Let's begin. Let the show